thought I would say yes to someone like you. How pathetic.
The words hit him like a slap in front of everyone. You are too poor to even dream. Laughter followed, sharp and careless, bouncing off the mud walls and tin roofs. The village square froze for a breath. People stopped chewing, stopped walking, stopped thinking. A young woman stood tall near the well, her chin lifted, pride glowing on her face. In front of her stood a man with worn shoes, dust on his sleeves, and silence in his eyes. No one knew that the next hours would change the village forever. His name was Arav, though most people only called him the poor man from the East Path. He stood straight but not proud, calm but not weak. His clothes were clean yet old, patched with careful hands. His fingers were rough, scarred in places that told stories no one ever asked to hear. When the woman turned away from him, dismissing him like something broken, he did not argue. He did not beg. He simply nodded, once, as if accepting a truth that was never hers to give. The woman was Mira, daughter of the richest trader in the region. She had grown up with full plates and soft beds, with choices handed to her before she could even ask. She had been kind once, long ago, before wealth taught her distance. That day, surrounded by friends and curious eyes, she had chosen mockery over mercy. The village watched, and the village stayed quiet. Arav walked away slowly. Each step pressed into the earth like a promise. No one followed him. No one stopped him. They let the dust swallow his back as if he were always meant to disappear that way. Few knew where Arav came from. Fewer knew what he carried inside. Years ago, he had left the village as a boy with bright eyes and a shy smile. He returned a man with deeper eyes and a silence that felt heavy, like rain waiting to fall. The villagers assumed failure. They assumed he had gone to the city and lost. They never asked why he woke before dawn, or why he flinched at sudden noise, or why he smelled faintly of oil and iron even after bathing in the river. Long before Mira's laughter, Arav had stood on foreign soil under a burning sky. He had worn a uniform that clung to his skin with sweat and dust. He had learned the weight of a rifle, the sound of fear breathing beside him, the smell of earth torn open by force. He had watched friends fall, not in stories, but in his arms, their warmth fading as the world kept moving. He had learned to stay silent because words did not save lives there. Actions did. He remembered the night his closest friend pressed a small metal badge into his hand. Fingers trembling, eyes already distant. Keep going, no matter what they say. Arav had kept that badge close ever since, hidden in a cloth pouch against his chest. It was dull now, scratched and faded, but to him it shone brighter than gold. When the war ended, there were no parades for him. No music, just a paper, a handshake, and a long road home. The village greeted him with polite nods and questions that never went deep. He tried to farm, tried to sell goods, tried to fit back into a world that felt too loud and too small. Money slipped through his hands like water. Pride kept him quiet. So when Mira laughed, it was not the first time the world reminded him of what it thought he was worth, but it cut deeper because it was public, sharp, and final. She had not just rejected him. She had judged his entire life in one sentence. The days that followed carried a strange tension. Whispers traveled faster than footsteps. Some said Mira had spoken the truth. Some felt a quiet shame, but did nothing. Arav continued his routine. He fixed fences, carried water for elders, helped children with broken wheels. He asked for nothing. He expected nothing. Then the rain came. It started as a soft drizzle, the kind farmers welcome. By nightfall, it turned heavy and angry. The river swelled, dark and restless. Wind pushed against doors. By morning, the east side of the village was underwater. Mud houses trembled. Animals cried. Panic spread. Mira's family home stood close to the riverbank. Wealth had bought size, not safety. When the water rushed in, it showed no respect for stone or status. People shouted, running in circles, pulling at doors that would not open. Mira stood on the upper floor, clutching the railing, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. The river rose fast. Arav was already moving. He tied a rope around his waist with steady hands. His body remembered what his mind did not need to command. He stepped into the water without hesitation. It was cold, pulling, strong. Each step forward felt like fighting an invisible force. Villagers watched from higher ground, frozen by fear and disbelief. The poor man from the east path walked into the flood like it was an old enemy. He reached the house, climbed where the walls still held, and broke a window with his elbow. Glass cut his skin, but he did not slow. Inside, the air smelled of wet wood and panic. Mira saw him then. Their eyes met. Recognition flickered, followed by something like shame. He did not speak. He held out his hand. She hesitated, a second too long, as the water surged higher. Then she took it. His grip was firm, grounding. He guided her out, tied the rope around her, signaled to those watching. Together, they pulled her to safety. When her feet touched dry ground, the crowd exhaled as one. But Arav did not stop. He went back again and again. An old man trapped on a roof, a child clinging to a tree, a mother frozen with fear. Each time he returned, soaked and bleeding, eyes focused, breath controlled. The badge against his chest pressed into his skin like a heartbeat, reminding him why he was still standing. By the time the rain eased, the village stood changed. Loss had come, but so had something else. Respect, heavy and quiet. Authorities arrived later, boats cutting through calm water. One officer stared at Arif's movements, the way he stood, the way he listened. He noticed the scars, the posture, the silence. When he saw the badge slip from Arif's pouch as he bent to help someone, the officer's face shifted. "This man served," he said softly, almost to himself. Word spread fast after that. Not like gossip, but like truth, finally finding air. Arif had been part of a unit known for impossible missions. He had been decorated, quietly, without ceremony. His pension had been small, delayed, forgotten by systems that moved on too fast. He had never complained. The village gathered that evening, wet clothes hanging, candles flickering. Mira stood before Aro, her hands shaking. The words she wanted to say felt heavy, but they needed to be said. She bowed her head. "I judged your worth by your money, and I was blind." Arav looked at her, really looked. He saw fear, regret, humanity. He nodded once. The past loosened its grip. Someone in the crowd spoke, then another. Stories surfaced. Small kindnesses Arav had done without notice. Repairs made at night. Food left quietly at doors. The silence that once made him invisible now made him powerful. One elder raised his voice, steady and clear. "Wealth can buy comfort, but honor is earned in silence." Another added, "Man's value is not counted in coins, but in the lives he lifts." Mira's father stepped forward, humbled. He offered help, support, respect, not as charity, but as acknowledgement. In the days that followed, things shifted. Arav was offered work that fit his skills. The authorities corrected their neglect. The village children followed him, listening to his quiet lessons about strength and patience. Mira changed too. Pride softened into purpose. She helped rebuild, side by side with those she once overlooked. The river returned to its place, but the village did not return to its old ways. Arav still wore his old clothes. He still walked the east path. But now, when people saw him, they stood a little straighter. Not because he demanded it, because his silence had taught them something words never could. He had been mocked for being poor. He had been rejected without mercy. And yet, when the village needed a hero, it was the quiet man with nothing to prove who stepped forward. In the end, no grand speech marked his victory. No applause thundered. Just a village that finally understood true strength does not shout. True honor does not beg. And the deepest battles are often fought in silence. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from and what it made you feel. Subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet heroes among us.